أهلا وسهلا بكم أهلي وإخوتي في الوطن العربي الكبير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. اليوم نلتقي مع حضراتكم ونبدأ كلامنا أن بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلاة وسلاما على أشرف الخلق أجمعين، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا المصطفى الهادي الأمين. أما بعد، المفروض إن المحامية نيكوليت هتكون معانا أي لحظة دلوقتي. إحنا بعتنا لها الدعوة، وهي وافقت على الدعوة ورحبت وشافت كمان الكلام ده، وقالت طلبت يعني ان احنا نعمل ايه في اللايف ونتكلم عن ايه. وحددت الساعة 5 EST. المشكلة بقى ان هي PST، يعني انا بس اخشى ما اخشى انها تكون ما بصتش في الكلام وشافت كلمة PST افتكرتها EST. أي الفرق 4 ساعات بين التوقيت الشرقي والتوقيت الغربي. نحن في انتظار ظهورها أي وقت على الشاشة معنا. بعتنا لها الدعوة وسنبدأ بأخذ أي أسئلة لحضراتكم، كل أسئلة حضراتكم لحد ما توصل المحامية نيكوليت. هل من جديد عن القضية؟ أي قضية يا ريهام يا رحيم؟ لازم اللي يتكلم يا جماعة يقول لنا بيتكلم عن أي قضية. نحن الآن في انتظار المحامية نيكوليت. نكتب كده في انتظار ونعملها رو ونعمل بالمنظر ده. نشيل دي بقى ونشوف أسئلة حضراتكم. لو في أسئلة أقدر أرد عليها بنفسي لحد ما توصل المحامية نيكوليت، ربنا ينتهى بالسلامة. هل في جديد في قضية 21 في أبيل اتعمل يا ميري؟ ومنتظرين المحامية تيجي تكلمكم عنه. الأبيل مر بطريقة جيدة جدا وكويسة جدا، و الحمد لله لحد دلوقتي النتائج مبشرة بالخير، أو البشائر بتخلينا متفائلين. كيف ستوزع التأشيرات بعد ربحنا في اعتقادها؟ حاضر، محضرين لها الجواب ده. ما معنى دراسة الدي اس يا إيناس؟ دراسة الدي اس لما حد بيجي على الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية لازم يقدم طلب يطلب فيه الدخول للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، يحط فيه الباك جراوند تشيك بتاعته ويكتب فيه سيرته الذاتية. هو ده بقى بيكون اسمه 260 بالنسبة للهجرة العشوائية. معنى انه يدرس انه راح للمخابرات وتم دراسته وحالتك مقبولة من ناحية المخابرات. هل في أمل بحفظ التأشيرات غير في قضية بذلك وفي استئناف رفعوا المحامي كيرتس موريسون بهذا الصدد يا فتحي؟ كويس إن في حد بيسأل أهو عن 22. هل في أمل أشترك في قضية 22؟ الله يخليك، انتهت قضايا 22، انتهى زمن الانضمام إلى قضايا 2022، ولن يكون هناك قضايا حتى في 2023. ما هو موقف مرفوض المسلم بان 2020 موقف لما يوصل لنا موقف لذلك هنقوله لحضرتك. يعني بمعنى ايه؟ بمعنى ان في قضيه ل 2020، لو قضيه 2020 كسبت، اللي منظوره الان امام الطعون، لو الطعن بتاعك كسب، نشوف موقف المسلم بان ايه من هذا يا اخي يا هيثم المبارك عبيد. هل سبق من قبل أن تم إصدار تأشيرات من القرعة بعد انتهاء السنة المالية بحكم قضائي؟ حصلت قبل كده، وحصلت بقرار الكونجرس. حصلت مرة في قضية بتاعت واحد ست من الهند، وحصلت في قرار من الكونجرس. مش هنقدر نقول المناسبة على الهواء لأن المناسبة أمنية. كان في حادث أوقف دخول الناس للولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، فعاد الكونجرس وقرر إعادة إدخال القرعة العشوائية. العمدة حبيبي، ازيك يا حبيبي أيمن بوب؟ أيمن بوب، ازيك حبيبي؟ كيف ستوزع التأشيرات علما بأن المدة أكثر من 3 سنوات؟ يعني إيه إن المدة أكثر من 3 سنوات؟ فهمني كلامك لو سمحت. ولما تقول تتوزع تأشيرات فهمني تأشيرات إيه، 21 ولا 22؟ أحلى حاجة إن إحنا ادينا ميعاد للمحامية وهي اللي ما جاتش. الأخ سار، كيف صحتك؟ متى هيكون القرار بتاع القاضي بالنسبة ل 21؟ في هنا يا راشد في شقين، سؤالك شقين. في الشق الأول ينتهي في الشق الأول ينتهي في محكمة الأبيل ومحكمة الطعون. الشق الثاني ينتهي أمام القاضي مهتا بعد ذلك. فلا بد لنا أولا في الفوز في الطعن، وبعد ذلك يبقى في عودة أمام القاضي مهتا. ما تنساش إن احنا طالبين منه زيادة 3600 تأشيرة. هل هناك وقت محدد لإصدار القرار؟ لا، من يوم ل3 شهور، من يوم ل3 شهور. المحامي كيرس موريسون بيقول على شهر ديسمبر، والمحامي تشارلز كوك بيقول على شهر 1. بنحاول نجيب لكم نيكوليت اهي، انما نيكوليت لحد دلوقتي لم تصل. سؤال معلش، هو شهادة ثانوية بتكون بالدرجات ولا النجاح بس؟ جميل جدا. انت مقدم دراسة ولا مقدم ثانوية عامة، ولا مقدم الثانوية العامة بتاعتك للهجرة العشوائية؟ لو مقدم بيان الدرجات يكفي خالص، بيان الدرجات يكفي خالص. معاك الشهادة نفسها قدمها، لكن لو مقدم دراسة ده موضوع تاني. هل هناك حفظ للتأشيرات تي او حتى الآن يا أنور عبد الرحمن؟ موضوع حجز تأشيرات يو اي او متوقف على محكمة الأبيل اللي رفعها المحامي كيرتس مورسون بخصوص قضية يو اي او في شيكاغو. ابقى هات لي من عم إيهاب $1000 عشان أنا كسبت. أنا عارف إنك هتكسب. 260. ما هو المقصود بالمعالجة؟ أنا قلت الكلام ده لسه من دقيقة. معنى إنك تمت المعالجة إن أنت كده أصبحت جاهز للمقابلة. إن شاء الله معنى كده إن أنت أصبحت جاهز للمقابلة وتنتظر فقط الجدولة. هي بتقول إن هي الدعوة ما وصلت لهاش. هبعت لها الدعوة من هنا تاني. ناخد الاسم كويس جدا ان هي تواصلت يعني. ناخد الدعوة من هنا لهنا لهنا وندي لها دعوة هنا. نجيب اسمها اللي هي كتبته I am forwarding doing، وناخد كلمة نيكوليت من هنا ونبعت لها من جديد recipient نيكوليت و here. ثواني يا جماعة، هي هتكون معانا، المفروض إنها تبقى معانا بقى كده. هي ممكن تكون أول مرة فيها ليها تطلع على ستريم يارد. هنشوف نشوف السنت مبعوت لها مرتين. المرة التانية سليمة. هنسيب الكلام ده برضو قدامها. احنا مستنيين وصولها في اي لحظة. دلوقتي هي بتقول ان هي ما وصلت لهاش الدعوة، انا قلت لها هبعتها لك تاني. استاذ سائر، بالنسبة اني هقابل في الامارات يكفي الضامن فقط ولا الشرط بضمان مالي؟ الضامن يكفي والضمان المالي يسد. الضامن يكفي. نقول لها على مهلك، يعني ما تستعجليش، خدي وقتك. هي المفروض انها تطلع معانا هنا في اي لحظه، بس هي واضح ان هي مش واخده على، هي كانت مصوره ان احنا نطلع على الزوم لان هي اجتماعاتها بتعملها كلها في الزوم. Hello.
I am so sorry. I couldn't.
It's okay. It's okay.
Couldn't get it.
Yeah, okay. Maybe StreamYard is a little confusing for you.
I've never done this particular platform, so I apologize.
Yeah, Hussein Florida told me, listen, Nicola is used to Zoom.
That is
I
true.
said, okay, let's try. Okay, so what do you want me to call you? Miss,
No.
Mrs. Attorney
Nicolette. You're gonna call me Nicolette. You're gonna call me Nicolette.
Very good. So Nicolette, Attorney Nicolette, here are your audience tonight. They are all from the Middle East. It's going to be in Arabic, so I'm going to translate back and forth between you and them. First of all, we want to welcome you. السيدات والسادة، باللغة العربية ستكون مقابلتنا مع المحامية نيكوليت، وستكلمنا عن الأبيل في 2020 و 2021. Our main topic going to be the appeal of 2021 and 2020 and all what happened in the appeal. Especially, they all are impressed with your performance in that appeal. They are. And first of all, let's introduce you to the people. You introduce yourself. I'll translate.
Okay, I am Nikolet Glazer. I am an attorney with the law offices of Larry R. Glazer. We're in California, and I'm really glad to be here with you guys.
هي السيدة نيكوليت بتقول أنها أحد أعضاء مكتب جليزر للهجرة لقوانين الهجرة وقضايا الهجرة وترحب بحضراتكم. So we want first to introduce what lawsuits you have in the appeal that belongs to your office and law firm.
Well, in the DC appeal, we have two lawsuits, basically the consolidated. We have the Gjochi appeal, which is a separate lawsuit that we filed last year, I believe in February. And it is on a DC consolidation based on the issue of standing.
Okay. That's for 2021?
2021, yes.
Okay. تقول السيدة جلازر أن في 2021 لهم قضية المشهورة بجوتشي and people call it Gucci, just to let you know.
Okay.
and القضية منضمة على باقي القضايا في 21 مع باقي القضايا. Now, Nicolette, what happened in the appeal? First topic going to be what happened in the appeal, and then what's your impression while you are sitting there, and then what did you came out with?
Okay. Well, just before I go into that, we also have the Filozapovich lawsuit, which is combined with the Good Luck case.
That is the very difficult one for me to say.
Okay, I'm going to feel it.
Yeah. والقضية الأخرى هي فيلزالوفيتش. Did I say?
Yes, you did. Perfect.
Okay. القضية الأخرى منضمة مع قضية Good Luck. الآن سنعرف منها كل شيء عن الأبيل، ما حدث في الأبيل، انطباعها وهي داخل المحكمة، ثم النتيجة التي خرجت بها. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, first question I think it is my impression of the appeal.
No,
what happened
in the appeal back and forth between them lawyers and the government and the judge, and then we switch.
Okay. So what first happened, I will say, is we got the first direct interchange between the attorneys and a panel that kind of gave us a little bit of an idea where they were going with, from their standpoint, with the legal issues. So if you listen to some of the argument, it was kind of lengthy. I think we are close to 2 hours. So there was a lot of legal issues, a lot of dry materials. But in essence, the way I kind of will explain it is the government really was struggling to defend their position, which is they were really focusing on the 1182F, the provision that Trump used to issue the bans, the travel bans.
And give me a second. تقول المحامية نيكوليت أن في البداية كانت المناجزة بين المنصة وتقسيم الوقت بين الحكومة والمحامين. الجلسة كانت طويلة، استغرقت أكثر من ساعتين، فعلا ساعتين 49 دقيقة. بعد ذلك لاحظت هي تلعثم الحكومة، حيث أن الحكومة كانت تود فقط التركيز على 11582 وهو ما استخدمه ترامب في إيقاف إصدار التأشيرات. يسمع 1150
1182F.
1182.
Yeah, not that anybody cares about the provision, but
they do now. They know.
Okay. So the government was really struggling. I mean, they were really struggling to defend because the text of the statute doesn't support their position. So the judges, two of the judges were very active. The chief judge, Judge Servician, I don't think I pronounced it right, and then Judge Katsas. And they were both very active in trying to nail down the position of the government, and the government attorney, Miss Ausenberg, was really struggling. She was holding on to the practice.
في البداية ظهر تلعثم الحكومة وإصرارها على استخدام المادة 1182F، وقالت نيكوليت ما تظنش انكم مهتمين برقم المادة. قلت لها انه كلهم بقوا يعرفوا دلوقتي رقم المادة خلاص. بدأت 2 من القضاة والقاضي كاسي، وكانت المناجزة بينهم وبين المحامية، حيث أن التكست والنص لم يخدم المحامية. رغم ذلك صممت محامية الحكومة على استخدام المادة في تبريرها لذلك، وكان واضح جدا تعنيف القضاة لها أن المادة لا تخدم ما تريده الحكومة. يسمع.
So the exchange was between the judges and both with Jesse, who did fabulous, Jesse Bless, and the government attorney was kind of trying to figure out, is the statute supporting the position Trump took or not?
في البداية رد عليهم جيسي بلس في هذا الموضوع، وكانت فعلا الحكومة في ورطة، حيث أنها لم تستطيع إثبات أن النص يخدم نوايا ترامب.
And the question really is when the statute says that the president can prevent people from entering, does it really mean that at the same time, when he issued the travel ban, he told the Department of State, you cannot process visas? And that's kind of where the whole legal issue is the entry in a statute cover the stoppage of the visa issuance and stopping the diversity visa altogether? That's kind of what the big thing is about.
وكانت المحك هل من حق الخارجية إيقاف إصدار التأشيرات بناء على تعليمات ترامب الذي من حقه منع الدخول أم لا؟ وهذا كان المحك الرئيسي في الحوار، والذي استخدمته الحكومة، فكان وبالا عليهم حتى الآن في رأي المحامية نيكوليت.
And so the judges were pressing the government attorney of how the position of the administration suspending the diversity visa DV 2020 and DV 2021 flows from the statute that only talks about entry. So it's all about parsing the words in the statute to find out if there is support for it.
وكان كل الموضوع بين القضاة محاولة منهم لإثبات للحكومة أن المادة التي تستخدمها الحكومة لا تدعم موقف الحكومة وطلبها على الإطلاق، لكن الحكومة كانت بتقاوح، وهذا هو المحك الأول. So what was the next point?
And then the good for us is that the government couldn't square the statute with their position. So they were saying to the judge over and over, but that's what we've been doing for 30 years.
وقالت الحكومة هذا ما كنا نفعله خلال 30 عام سابقة. And then I remember what you guys said, all the attorneys, that it doesn't mean if it's been done for 30 years this way, it doesn't mean it's the right way.
Exactly.
That was Raphael. He said, if you do this for 100 years, that does not mean it was right.
Correct.
Just two, yes.
And so ultimately, the judges are going to have to decide whether the statute, which is on our side, is enough, or they can give the government a little leeway and say, okay, you have done it for so long, we're going to have to defer to you. That's the big issue on the first legal question in the appeal.
والآن ننتظر نحن موقف القضاة، حيث أنهم إما أن يسيروا مع النص، وإما أن يقولوا للحكومة بما أنكم كنتم ماشيين على هذا لمدة 30 سنة فنفضل أن نبقى على ذلك. وهذا هو ما ننتظره الآن من القضاء. يسمع.
So the second issue is the preservation.
Yeah.
That is what I think probably the listeners are most interested in, because that goes on whether the judges, not only Judge Mechte and Judge Chutkan, but judges in generally, can preserve visas.
Okay, let me tell you one thing before you proceed. In that particular day, in that time, I was on 2 phones and YouTube. I was listening, translating, typing to all of them people, and at the same time do my own comment while I'm listening and translating and doing all vice versa.
Wow.
So I was really there with you, and we really appreciate all what you did. And what you're telling them now, they really, each one of them, people was online that time. Go ahead.
So for the preservation, that's the big issue for us, because it's going to be ultimately, if they agree with Judge Mechte and Judge Chutkan, then they have to approve the preservation, and then they're going to order the judge to start issuing visas. I mean, order the judge to tell the Department of State to start issuing. So the preservation is the biggest question and the biggest issue for us in the whole appeal. That's, to me, that is the crucial thing. Not very good the way that at least the 2 judges that were participating, they don't seem to be necessarily sold with Judge Mechte's reasoning. And that was the little thing that was very disappointing to me when I was sitting there in the argument and waiting for my turn.
النقطة الثانية التي كانت محل البحث هو حجز التأشيرات. وهل من رأي المحكمة أن القاضي مهدي أصاب في حجز التأشيرات أم أنه خالف في ذلك؟ وهذا سيكون أكبر محك لنا، وهذا ما ننتظره، إما انتصار مهدي أو انتصار الحكومة. And in that topic, I want to remind you that even the judge told the government that it's not, show me where in the Constitution it says that the judge cannot do this. They want, and then they say, okay, show me where it says that he can reserve. He said, if it does not show that he cannot reserve, that means it's up to him. Then he can show, unless the Congress say different, right?
That is true. And actually, the way I looked at the exchange was a little bit different. To me, they're not interested in what the statute was saying, because it doesn't say anything about preservation. It doesn't say anything about filing before, and like the chief judge says, it doesn't say anything about before the end of the fiscal year or after. It doesn't say anything. Really, the question there is, when Congress has spoken and has issued the Immigration and Nationality Act, which is such a comprehensive scheme, has they reserved the equitable power of the courts to do justice, even if the statute doesn't give them the power? And that is where Judge Katsas seemed to be a little bit pushing against our position. And Jesse was outstanding in responding to it. But I think that is the big push that he got, is how do we get equity when statute has been written without mentioning it, and the Supreme Court telling judges time and time again, equity was thing of a past, we don't care much for it right now.
Okay. وكان كل رد الحكومة أن ليس من حق القاضي ذلك. ذكرت لها أنا أن القاضي استوقف الحكومة، قال لهم وروني فين في تعليمات الكونغرس بيقول القانون إن القاضي مش من حقه. وكانت هذه المقارعة بينهم وبين جيسي بلاس الذي أثبت للقاضي طالما مش موجود ان ليس من حق القاضي مهدة الحجز، معنى كده ان القاضي يقدر يحجز، حيث ان القاضي قال ذلك للحكومة طالما ليس هناك نص على عدم أحقية القاضي في حجز التأشيرات، معنى ذلك أن القاضي يفعل ما يريد وقد كان، وهذا ما ننتظره من القاضي إن شاء الله. كان في قضية واحدة ضد هذا والاثنين القضاة معه الحمد لله. So next gonna be the next point that you mentioned, and that people lost 6 months.
I apologize, I didn't understand that.
Then you interfered and you went and talked to them about people lost 6 months out of that, right? What was your point then? That
well, the point that the attorneys were trying to make to him is that the decision that the judge was pointing to had to do with citizenship. And it's an old Filipino case in which people were trying to get citizenship declared by a judge. And the Supreme Court had said in the past, well, you can't do that. There is no equitable power for a judge to declare somebody a U.S. citizen. It's all within the parameters of the Immigration Act. And that's what Judge Katz... I'm sorry?
And that was the Shahi that they're talking about.
No, the Shahi is my case. Shahi is kind of a different thing. No, Judge Katz's were talking about a case called Pandeljanium, something like that, which is an old case. And Jesse was very good in responding right away, saying, but that's only about citizenship. And all the judges all the courts that have looked at it have said that particular case is only limited for citizenship. So that was a great comeback by him. And then there were no more questions from Judge Katz. So I think that is the biggest retort that we have as plaintiffs, that it is that they were looking at something that was very cabined, and if it's not restricted, then equity should play. So that's kind of where we were trying to emphasize, and that I think that really went well as a point. What they are talking about, Shahi was a case that I litigated, is that Shahi finally broke from the jurisdictional chains that were attached to the DV statute. Because all the cases...
I need a second now.
المحامية
نيكوليت بتقول أن الريمونتادا جت من جيسي بلاس على كلام الحكومة لما الحكومة استشهدت بقضية لمواطنين فلبينيين، وأكد جيسي بلاس للمحامون ومحامو الحكومة وللمحكمة أن القضية في السيتيزنشيب وليست في الهجرة العشوائية، وأقر ذلك باقي القضاء. بعدها سكتت القضية كاسي تماما وأكملوا الحوار، وستخبرنا الآن عن قضية شاهي التي هي للمحامية نيكوليت نفسها. شاهي.
And so the
By the way, Shahi means tea.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
In some cultures, and in the other culture, Shahi comes from Shah, which is the king.
Yeah, that I was kind of figuring, but I didn't know it means tea. Thank you. So the Shahi case got a lot of talk during the argument. And the reason, as I said, was until Shahi, most courts have seen that end of the fiscal year provision as jurisdictional, meaning it deprives the court from doing anything with respect to the diversity visa. So all these old cases saying once it becomes September 30th, it's end. It's that unyielding deadline that can never be broken and all that stuff. Even Judge Mehta was talking about it. In Shahi, the Seventh Circuit actually said, no, when we were talking about in the past, we just didn't know what we were talking about. There is nothing jurisdictional about it. The end of the year has nothing to do. Nobody is talking about jurisdiction, authority of the court. So Judge Easterbrook on the Seventh Circuit sort of said jurisdiction is not at play. And if the government is to want to waive it the end of the year, they can process visas, nobody can stop them. If they forfeit it, for example, they've done something bad, which is what we're arguing here, then they can forfeit. They can lose the right to rely to the end of the year. So that was a big kind of a opening in the whole DV legal landscape with the Shahi case.
إذن سنشرح لكم قضية شاهي. في قضية شاهي كانت قضية فريدة من نوعها، حيث كان الحوار فيها هل من حق الحكومة الالتزام بالسنة المالية أو سقوط كل القضايا بمجرد انتهاء السنة المالية. وتعرض لذلك الدائرة السابعة، وثبت في هذه القضية أن الالتزام بالسنة المالية إذا لم تقم الحكومة بشيء يخالف بأي مخالفات، ولكن إذا خالفت الحكومة فمن حق الادعاء ومن حق المدعين العودة للقضاء لإنجاز العمل. Yes, ma'am.
And so during the argument, there was a lot of talk, and the government was very resistant to trying to acknowledge that yes, they have the right to not use the end of the year and continue to process visa, or they can voluntarily relinquish it. And at the end, I believe Michelle Ramos had to admit that yes, they certainly can do that, but they don't want to do it. So I think it was interesting exchange between the judges and the government on that.
وفي نهاية النقاش استقر الوضع على انتصار فكرة أن نهاية السنة المالية ليست حدا لإصدار التأشيرات، ولكنها فقط حدا للسنة المالية وليست للمدعين. What was the point number 3? So we talk about the reservation.
And the next one was the prioritization issue.
And the prioritization.
So then we switched to the 2021 cases, and that's when Rafael Urena was arguing. And the main issue there is whether the prioritization, the 4-tier prioritization guidance is lawful. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that the judges were that interested in engaging in that particular issues. It seems to me that they will really focus, and the big kind of excitement was regarding the statute 1182F and the issue of preservation. To me, it seems like they were not as interested, at least during the argument, in the preservation issue. Rafael did outstanding.
I heard the judge was talking to the government and say, I thought I heard that, especially the first 5 minutes, how can it be the only category, and he asked, is there any other category with a limit time?
Mm-hmm.
And the government said no. He said, then I don't see why you prioritize them the lost while they have a limit. And he did not understand that, and he asked for explaining. Yes, ma'am.
And the government had to admit that, and their pivot was, well, we had limited resources, and the Immigration and Nationality Act, the INA, is written with the emphasis of family reunification. I don't think that the judges were really necessarily buying that argument, but we'll see. To me, that they were not as interested in particularly asking a lot of questions about the prioritization issue. But I think Rafael did outstanding in making his point.
في مسألة الأولويات وتنتقل بنا إلى 2021. لا تظن أن القضاء كان يبلي بالا أو يلقي بالا لمسألة البريوريتايزيشن، مع أني ذكرتها بأن القاضي سأل الحكومة لماذا تضع الهجرة العشوائية في نهاية البريوريتيز بينما هم الوحيدون، وسألها هل في آخرين ليهم نهاية للسنة المالية؟ قالت لا. قال إذن لا أرى سببا أبدا لوضعكم للهجرة العشوائية في النهاية، في نهاية الأولويات. والمحامية نيكوليت ترى أن المحامي رافائيل يورينا أبلى بلاء حسنا في ذلك. And then came the other lawyer, which I don't know. Then came the cross appeal from Gomez.
Correct. And then was and Chuck Cook came in and kind of like in a very engaged way tried to kind of bring everything together and emphasize.
Everybody was chanting. I heard that. You know what I told them now? I said, "Hello, here comes Chuck. Dance, Chuck, dance."
And I think what he kind of spent his limited time, because they limited the time to the attorneys, only had 5 minutes. And so what he did, what's really great, is that rather than talk about math, and I don't think the judges really were interested. One of the judges rolled his eye a little bit. So I don't think they wanted to talk about the math. But what Chuck did really well is kind of he used the few minutes that he had to hammer kind of the points that are the most important aspect of it, is that, the illegality of the government action, and that they kept doing and, restricting DV applicant despite 5 court telling him you cannot read 1182F the same way. So it was a really a nice way for him kind of to put the exclamation mark to the main point, which the judges were most interested. So that was really good, because he kind of spoke to the judge who was keep asking the question about the statute. So I think that was great.
تقول المحامية نيكوليت بعد ذلك جاء الدور على الكروس أبيل وعلى تشارلز كوك الذي صال وجال وأخذ سولو. ولما قلت لحضراتكم رافائيل يصول ويجول، تشارلز كوك يصول ويجول، وعوضا عن استخدام ال5 دقائق بتاعته في الكلام عن الأرقام، لاحظ تشارلز كوك أن المحكمة مش عايزة تتكلم في الأرقام، فاستغل ال5 دقائق في الدق على رأس الحكومة بعدم أحقية الحكومة في هذا وذلك، وفند حجج الحكومة وضحضح الحكومة على الآخر. حس المحامين بواقع ذلك. بعد كده في قضية من القضاء امتنعت عن الكلام خالص، وكان موقف حضراتكم بقى أصبح أقوى. وزي ما قلنا موقفكم في 21 يقوي موقفكم في 2020، يقوي كل المواقف. And then he rests his case and he sat down. And then?
So then it was my turn to go in. And in a Georgia case, as I told you, because we had Judge Lambert, because he didn't address the substance, he didn't talk about the regulations or the statute. He focused only on standing, which is a very dry legal issue. So I had kind of like the misfortune to argue the most dry aspect of it, or something called injury in fact. I don't think your listeners want to hear about it, but I can tell you
the audience are really proud of that and happy that you mentioned this. They feel really hurt that they lost all the way to March and then some out of the physical year, which is very limited.
Right. Yeah. And so what I wanted to impress after listening to close to an hour and a half of argument, what I wanted to mention is that what we have, the real injury in fact, was the fact that, yes, the statute says you have 12 months of eligibility. And all the DV selectees, they're considered by the statute who have approved petition. And the Congress said you have 12 months of eligibility. And then the government comes in and says, we're going to cut that eligibility to half. And so what I wanted to point to them is that when you take away a benefit program and cut it in half, then you definitely have statistically more than substantial impact on the eligibility of the plaintiffs. So that's kind of what I wanted to make a connection with, which was limited. I mean, the statute and the law was all, we've written it, they have 100 pages of written, but I wanted to connect it with the facts and the plight of the plaintiffs, all the plaintiffs, DV 2020 and DV 2021.
Very good. So جاء بعد ذلك دور المحامية نيكوليت في جوتشي أو how you call it?
Gjochi, but I like Gucci. But Gucci's better. I like Gucci.
Yeah. Like a purse.
Yes, let's call him Gucci. I like that better.
بعد ذلك جاء حظها مش كويس لأن القاضي انتبه فقط للستاندينج، فهي أخذت ذلك في سرد المشكلة التي تعرضتم ليها، وقالت لي يمكن الناس مش عايزة تعرف المشكلة. قلت له بالعكس، الناس بالفعل حاسين بالضرر لأنهم فقدوا ال6 شهور اللي انت اتكلمتي عنها. فتكلمت عن الضرر الساقط الواقع على المدعين اللي هو حضراتكم، وأبرزت للحكومة ما ضرر الواقع على حضراتكم. So your impression during the appeal, during the debate, go on and back and forth. So the thermometer was going up and down and confident. Tell me how you felt.
Well, I have to say I was kind of disappointed with the judges. I mean, what they were doing, I have to say. And the thing that you guys didn't see, which I thought was kind of poignant, is we had 3 judges. You heard 2 of them, and then we had Judge Henderson, who didn't say a word throughout the argument. And what was very bothering to me is that at some point, I think it was maybe after halfway through Jessie Bless' argument, she kind of turned herself to the side like this.
Yeah,
and she was not even looking at the people arguing.
Said. That's what Cook said.
And that was really, I thought that was really very unusual. I mean, I've seen that in other judges, and I can tell you, in the past, when I've seen that, it means that the judge is basically, doesn't want to hear anything. They've made their mind. And so that really bothered me. And then when I think it was Leah Greenberg, which is the lady who argued last, I think at some point when she started talking, Judge Henderson turned her back to Leah and she was going on her phone.
Look at Hussein. I won't say that. Do you see what he said?
No, I'm sorry.
She acted like Judge Judy, he says.
Correct. Well, she was exactly. I think she was very, I think that was a very condescending, very, I don't know, I'll say unprofessional, but I thought that was really not normal, especially for such a high court. I mean, the DC Circuit is the second highest court after the Supreme Court. So to have that, I thought was very disappointing to me. I thought it was very disappointed.
That's exactly what Charles Cook said too. She said 2 words and then turned around and didn't even look at us, and he think he wins the case right there. السيدة نيكوليت بتقول أن ما أحزنها هو أن القضاة كان منهم القضية التي اشتكى منها تشارلز كوك أنها ادتهم جنبها وما اتكلمتش أكتر من كلمتين في البداية، بعد ما عرفت أن كلامها مش صحيح وأن القانون لن يدعم كلامها اتجهت بجانبها إليهم وسابتهم. المحامية نيكوليت شايفة أن ده في شيء من الاستهتار أو التقليل من أهمية الموضوع، وكأنها خدت قرارها خلاص ومش مهم بالنسبة لها الأبيل. وكان في جادج كمان انتم ما سمعتوهاش، هندرسون، ودي كانت على التليفون. So now we talk about your impression at the end. Now, what do you think is going on? Are we winning? Are we close to win then lose? Are we going to win in some issues, not the others?
Well, as you know, it's only the judges know how they felt. I have no idea what they're going to do. After the argument, the one thing I was left as an impression is that they have talked about the case before the argument, and it sounds like they have a lineup. They knew where they wanted to go with the ultimate decision.
سألت المحامية نيكوليت عن شعورها في آخر الجلسة وبعد الجلسة، هل هناك نقاط رابحة ونقاط خاسرة؟ قالت أن شعرت أن في كلام مسبق حصل قبل الجلسة، وأن القضاة تكلموا عن الموضوع، وأن هناك اتفاق منهم على موقف موحد. Yes, ma'am.
So they know how they want to rule. We don't. So we are all speculating. But it sounded to me that they were really interested in the statutory interpretation. That was the one that they were the more engaged about it. And it was more of a talk between the Chief Judge and Judge Katsas. And it sounded that they have somewhat of a disagreement about the most important issues, both about the way to read 1182F and with respect to preservation. So it was interesting to hear.
The Supreme Court?
I'm sorry?
Who is the Chief Judge?
Judge Terevisian. So he is the Chief Judge of the DC Circuit now.
Okay. So وترى أن إن شاء الله هي متفائلة بعض الشيء، ولكن تقول كل شيء سيكون في يد المحكمة. قضية الطاعون. He's talking some other case. I guess he wants to say appeal, but he's saying something else. Most of them are good luck case, and we have questions here.
Sure.
So
go ahead.
Do you think they will get more? If you don't mind, talk about good luck.
Of course.
If you and remember, in this show, you get the right to say, "Oh, no comment, no answer." It's up to you anytime to answer whatever you want. And first of all, Sufyan is asking you, what do you think about the current lawsuits? We're not going to mention one lawsuit, not the other. The lawsuits in 2022, since there's only 5 to 6 days left. What do you think happened in them lawsuits? Was it necessary to have a lawsuit in that timing, since we were only 33,000, and now, thanks God, we going almost to 50,000 and approaching the biggest maximum number ever in the history.
Yes, exactly. I mean, look, I am very impressed with the government that they really tried, and consulate did really this year. They made.
Do you think they would have done this if there's no litigations last 2 years and this year?
I think so. I mean, look, Adol Afram, we thought about it and we decided there is nothing that we can do. I mean, there is no final action. We didn't see a legal challenge, so we didn't file any lawsuits for this 2022. I think the good thing about litigation is by filing something, you kind of keep the government on their toes. And so, yes, by I think Jesse Bless filing I think the 1 or 2 or 3 lawsuits that he filed really early in a year, I think he kind of kept the fire under the government's wings, and I think that was good. But I think really the consulates, especially the consulate that had cleared their backlog, they made an effort to provide as many slots to the DV 2022. And the reason for that is that they originally were preparing. The government was preparing to having to disperse visa in the DV 2020, the Gomez case, in the Good Luck, the Go case. And so there was the whole thing about they're going to front load it for the first part of the year. They didn't do it, of course. But what I think happened is they cleared a lot of the backlogs in some of the consulates, and then they actually allocated the resources to the DV 2022. That's how I see it.
بالسؤال لنيكوليت عن ماذا تظنين في قضايا 2022 وما رأيك في تلك القضايا. قالت أنها ترى أن الحكومة عملت كل اللي تقدر تعمله لإصدار أكبر كمية، وأن المحامين قاموا بوضع 3 قضايا كبرى تحت الرياح للحكومة حتى تبقي الحكومة على جمر يعني on its toes يعني على جمر وفي موقف لا تحسد عليه، وتبتدي تخلص أكبر قدر ممكن من التأشيرات. وهو ده اللي حدا بالحكومة إنها تبقى تعمل كل ده، ولكن في النهاية هي ما شافتش فائدة لأن هي ترفع قضية في 2022، لذلك لم ترفع قضية في 2022. Back to the appeal now in the group, because they prepared like today they prepared questions for you here already. And
let's go. Let's go.
I said, listen, you can give me all the questions you want here, but you got to show up to show the attorney, that's our guest, that there is people who needs to know what's happening. The number now on one, I'm doing this on 6 platforms. One of them is Twitter, and on YouTube, on 2 pages, and like 4 other groups, and on the Arab TV channel. So one of them is 86, one of them is 39. The others are like 50. On Twitter, it's 25 people watching. The total that from my end here is 326 people, and they all are interested to know your opinion. After they came out, Mr. Curtis Morrison said he think before the end of December, between a day and until the Christmas, they're gonna be 1 day to 90 days. He said they're gonna be a decision, and we're gonna know about it. But when I host here a live show with Charles Cook, he said December gonna never be the month, because it's full of holidays, and he thinks they will make decision around November. I just let me tell you something. Among all of them, people, when I told you I host before show with Charles Cook, Morrison, Urena, Brett Simon, Jesse Bless, he said, "Oh, you got all the stars," and I insist that we haven't today one more star. You are a star, and everybody knows that. And now they know who's Nicolette, really. Among them, Charles Cook got the strongest personality. It's hard for you to talk with him and get him to answer your questions. He got his questions. He wants to say this, not that. He's really hard, and now I understand what's happening in the court when he's talking. So between all that, they expect 1 to 90 days, a day to 90 days, or November. What do you think?
Well, let me put it this way. I think the judges are not looking into how long it's going to take. I think it's going to be whether there's going to be a dissent. So if there is going to be a dissent, meaning a judge is going to disagree with the other 2 judges, that takes longer, because the majority, the 2 judges write their decision. Then the judge that is dissenting has to look it over. He writes his opinion. Then the majority goes back and look, and they go back and forth and respond to each other. So that takes a long time. So if we're going to have a dissent, I think we probably are going to go to the longer side of the equation for a decision. If we don't, and if they end up not going into many of the issues, just decide the case on 1 or 2 issues, then we can get a relatively quick decision. I was thinking that if we don't have a dissent, probably November is where I would expect a decision.
Mediocre. Then what if there is a dissent?
If it's a dissent, then I will say probably that will be indicative that there will be most likely a Supreme Court's effort. And so if that is how it plays, probably we're going to look at December or January.
السيدة نيكوليت لما سألتها عن توقعاتها متى يصدر القرار، ذكرتها بأنها قالت لي طبعا لما قلت لها عايزينك تطلعي معانا في الشو عندنا، قالت بعد ما قلنا لها على تاريخنا والساده المحامين اللي طلعوا معانا، قالت لي انت جبت كل الستارز، فانا قلت لها انت كمان ستار معانا ولازم تطلعي معانا ان شاء الله. وسالتها سؤال مهم جدا بيسأله الناس: امتى تتوقعي صدور القرار؟ حيث ان تشارلز كوك قال يناير وكيرتس مورسون قال ديسمبر. فقالت المهم هنا المحك هو هل هيبقى فيه ديسندنج ام لا؟ هل هيبقى فيه 2 قضاة شمال وقاضي يمين، او 2 قضاة يمين وقاضي يقول شمال، او 2 قضاة يقولوا نعم وقاضي يقول لا ام لا؟ هذا هو ما سيطيل زمن إصدار القرار، وزمن إصدار القرار إذا ما فيش مخالفة بينهم من بعض سيكون في نوفمبر، وإذا كان في خلاف بينهم من بعض فربما يذهبوا القضاة لرأي السبريم كورت. القضاة نفسهم هم اللي يذهبوا لرأي السبريم كورت ويشوفوا، وفي هذه الحالة قد تكون في يناير. So how this gonna happen? Like how the Supreme Court gonna get involved in this? Is the government gonna take it to the Supreme Court? Because when you said that, people thought that the government will appeal to the Supreme Court, and what I understood from your conversation right now is telling me if there is a dissent, it will automatically escalate to the Supreme Court.
No. I didn't make myself clear. What I was trying to say is that when there is a dissent, that one judge thinks different than the other 2 judges, it creates like a roadmap for the argument for the person who's losing, or the party that is losing the appeal. And that sends a message that there is a disagreement between the judges. And that's the kind of cases the Supreme Court normally takes. So when we have a dissent from a high power judges like we have on this panel, that is normally a tip of the hat for the party that this is a good case to take to the Supreme Court. That's all I was telling, not that they will be automatic.
Okay. إذا نعدل من الكلام بعدما شرحته المحامية نيكوليت. هي لم تقصد أن المشكلة ستصل إلى السوبريم كورت، هي قصدت أن لو هناك ديسند، لو هناك مخالفة من أحد القضاء للقاضيين الباقيين، هذا يشير إلى وجود نقطة ضعف للخاسر. أيا كان الخاسر هيلاقي أن في نقطة ضعف، فمن هنا يقدر يروح للسوبريم كورت. ودي كانت النقطة اللي قالت عليها نيكوليت، والحالة الوحيدة اللي ممكن تدخل بها القضية للسوبريم كورت. إذا نتوقع من شهر نوفمبر إلى شهر 1 على رأي المحامية نيكوليت. So I'll go back to their question, and they're asking, so in the cross appeal, we see Charles Cook is asking for all his
plaintiff to get
not only 1/3, not only 31%, like Judge Mehta said. He said if there is a harm, a damage that happened, it occurred, so I need all of them. And that was the soul of his cross appeal. So that makes, and we understand that, so that makes good luck people are saying, oh, why we did not do the same thing. And I keep telling them it is a cross appeal because he got already a judgment, while in good luck they don't have a judgment yet. Then they can take that to the same judge again. So they keep asking me, please ask Nicolette, do you think they're going to be increased for good luck plaintiffs that benefit from this?
Well, let me put it this way. In a good luck case, which one of the cases in that is also mine, we, like you said, we had only a preliminary injunction. So judge sort of preliminary said, I am thinking the plaintiff, the DV 2021 people will win, and I'm going to use the same formula I use in Gomez and in Go, and I'm going to reserve 6,000 sometime pieces. Now, after that, we brief the motion for summary judgment. And I expect that if whatever happens in the DC circuit, there'll be more briefing that will have to address what the judges are going to say during the appeal. But we argue that more visas should be given. And if there is a favorable decision in Charles Cook's cross appeal, which I think there should be, then Judge Mehta will have to reevaluate. Now, let me, if I could go back, I will let you translate, but I want to make another point if you don't mind.
I got it. Go ahead.
Oh, so what I was trying to make points for people to understand is that if the way, I mean, class action is different because you have a known amount of people, and so it makes sense to allocate a certain amount of visas. In the DV 2021 lawsuits, all the lawsuits were individual people, meaning they have individual plaintiff, no class claim. I know Rosales was originally started as a class claim, but they dropped it. So in any other litigation, if the plaintiff win, then each plaintiff wins. There's no such a thing that you file a lawsuit of 3 people and the judge comes and says, yes, you win, but only one of them is going to get a benefit. The other 2 are winners, but they got nothing. So that doesn't make any sense. So Judge Mehta was kind of making an odd, really first impression kind of an approach that he's going to calculate how many people don't apply. I mean, that was very weird calculation that he did. And I don't think that is at all reflective of how litigation generally, individual litigation generally works. So I'm hoping that the judges are going to make that point. And I have personal vested interest because I have 3 lawsuits that are currently frozen, DV 2021, that we're waiting for the decision and appeal because judges will have to decide my plaintiff's entitlement. And in all of them, we have argued, and one of the judges seemed to be in agreement with us during a hearing, that if you have 100 people and all 100 people win, then all 100 people are getting relief. You can't parse it which going to get a benefit, which is not going to have a benefit. So I think that is going to be a very important legal issue, and I hope the judges do address it.
السيدة نيكوليت، المحامية نيكوليت، بتقول لحضراتكم في بسألها على قضية جود لك وزيادة المدعين، حيث أن المدعين طلبوا مني في الجروب النهاردة وعلى الشاشة بيسألوا هل ستزيد القضية دي واللي ناقشناها في الأبيل، هل سيزيد من المدعين الفائزين في بتأشيرات في قضية جود لك؟ فقالت بكل تأكيد إذا قضية جو وتشارلز كوك أخذوا قرار في صفهم فسيفيد هذه النتيجة، ستفيد جدا جدا في قضية جود لك، وهي ليها 3 لاسيتس مندمجين مع جود لك للسيدة نيكوليت، وبتقول إن هي ليها وجهة نظر وطلبت لو عايز أترجم لكم الأول، فقلت لها اتفضلي قولي وجهة نظرك. فالمحامية نيكوليت قالت أن عند فوز المدعين فيجب معاملة المدعين كلهم على أنهم كأنهم قضايا فردية، كأنهم كل واحد منهم مدعي بقضية، فلا ترى أبدا طريقة لأن هي توزع على تلت وليس الآخرين. ترى أنه ليس من العدل أن تقسم على الثلث 31% بس وليس الكل، ومن هنا ترى أنهم عندهم قضية قوية وموشن قوي للقاضي أميت مهتا بعد انتهاء الأبيل بالنجاح إن شاء الله سيرجعوا إلى القاضي مهتا ويطالبوا بكل تأشيرات للمدعين جميعا وليس الثلث، على اعتبار أن ما فيش حاجة اسمها كلاس أكشن، فإزاي تدي رقم والقضية مش كلاس أكشن؟ كل مدعي في القضية يعتبر مدعي لوحده، يعتبر مدعي كقضية فردية لأن ليس هناك class action. And that is here, I was searching the question, that is the question here. So the other one is asking, let me take you out of this box for a little bit, and asks, there is a Muslim ban that occurred in 2016, 17, 18, 19, and they've been harmed too. So do you think there's any lawsuit that they have already that they can benefit from, or the only one can benefit from it are those who were denied in 2020, or what do you think?
Well, I believe in the Gomez litigation. I don't know if it was Charles Cook or if
Charles
it
Cook.
was Morrison. They did at least try to allege that some of the plaintiffs were also harmed by the Muslim ban when it was in effect at the time. I don't think
2020.
I don't think Judge Mehta addressed that issue in the Gomez case and in the Gomez decision. So I don't think that was ever resolved. That's my recollection. I may be wrong on it, but that's my recollection. There is a lawsuit out of the Sacramento area, I believe, that is challenging the Muslim ban, but it specifically excludes DV applicants. So to my knowledge, and again, that's my limited knowledge, I don't think that there is any lawsuit that is pending for the people who are the most aggrieved, and those are the people from 2017 until 2021, including by all these travel bans. Now, I believe the Amakrami case was a 2017 DV, but I think it's only for the 2017. So if Amakrami ultimately wins, which is frozen because of the
Is it
Gomez
class
appeal,
action?
I think it's a class action, yes. I believe Amakrami is a class action. So if we are successful at the Gomez appeal, then Judge Chutkan is going to decide the merits of the Amakrami. I think now it's called Amakrami. Originally it was a PK something.
Yeah.
But that's 2017 case. So I anticipate that there will be some relief, but I think there's not that many visas left in 2017.
Okay.
So that's the visa question.
اوكي. اذا كان الكلام عن المسلم بان في 2020 فهو تابع لقضيه جوميز وسينتفع منه. اما اذا كان الكلام على المسلم بان بصفه عامه فليس هناك قضيه عامه للمسلم بان، وهناك قضيه في ساكرامنتو تخص الدي في فقط من المسلم بان واصحاب الهجره العشوائيه فقط من المسلم بان. اما عن 2017 فتظن القضيه المحاميه نيكوليت ان قضيه المكرامي تخص 2017، فتنصحكم بمتابعه نتيجه جوميز ثم متابعه القضيه شوتكان في 2017.
And if I can continue a little bit more elaborate on this particular issue, because I know it's kind of not been gotten much attention, is so in the 2017, in that Alakrami question, it's going to be a question how many visas are left. And I don't remember how many visas are issued, but I am pretty confident that if Judge Chutkan will order the government to issue the remaining visas and preserve them for the 2017. That is my gut feeling about it. But what I wanted to bring an attention to people is that one thing that was the most momentous to me during the Good Luck and Gomez argument is the Chief Judge, Judge Servician, asked, where does that have to file before the end of the fiscal year comes from? And I thought that was a very nice to me, because I've been trying to argue that, and that was the purpose of the Shahi case. And I think it shows that there is no such a thing, and nowhere in the statute, nor there is any doctrine that requires that people file before the end of the fiscal year. So I do hope that attorneys and advocates will look hard and will try to find a legal theory that we can actually bring a lawsuit, at least try to get the people who are targeted by the Muslim ban an opportunity to get DV visas. Because I think having that question from the Chief Judge, I think to me validates what I've been seeing for a long time, the decision that mentioned that without any analysis. So I do hope that there will be more lawsuits, and that we specifically argue and try to get a benefit for people because government targeted them. They targeted them on religious ground.
Trump
and for
did.
that there was I'm sorry?
Trump did.
Exactly. But I mean, and the government and the Department of State did it at the same time. So they shared the blame. And that we need to show that that was a discriminatory action. And normally when there's a discrimination, there's a remedy. And I hope that there will be more lawsuits for people because they deserve it.
بالنسبة ل 2017 والمسلم بان بصفة عامة، ترى المحامية نيكوليت أن من الأولى ب 2017 18 19 و20 المسلم بان التحرك في قضايا خاصة بهم بناء على ما سيحدث في القضية الحالية. ترى أن ظلما واضحا حدث على حضراتكم على أساس ديني وعرقي، وترى أن ذلك ليس عدلا، وترى أن الحكومة فعلا أساءت التصرف والرئيس ترامب أيضا. فبناء على ما سيحدث تقدروا ترفعوا قضايا لحضراتكم، تشوفوا هتلموا بعضكم ازاي، ترفعوا قضايا ازاي، هيبقى موقفكم. لكن هي شايفة انكم انظلمتم. The person here, Lawrence Capelli, say, hi, I'm a DV22 canceled. He had an interview and it was canceled. So are they going to do another interview? He misused English here. He could not tell you what he exactly wants to say. There is people that went to interview and give their passport and everything, but they returned the passport, so everything was canceled. There is people that had interviews and they canceled it. They did not get interviewed. And there is people who were under administrative processing, and there are people are denied based on Muslim bans. So if there is 9,095 visas, how you think issuing that? Do you have an opinion at all?
I can tell you that for the preserve visa, the 9,095,000 visa, if we stay with that number, the lawyers who represent the Gomez class, they have said that there will be no priorities. They have actually argued, and the judge has agreed, that even the people who are part of the related cases, I think Muhammad was one case, Kennedy was another.
Van Gogh.
Yes.
Hacker.
And correct. And in all
Kennedy.
these cases, in Kennedy, and the judge said there will be no priority. So people who are named, they're not going to get priority. That's what Judge Mehta said. And I know that the attorneys representing the class, their position is that they don't want to be involved in how and micromanage the way it is. It's going to be up to the Department of State in a random way. So my personal opinion is going to be, as with everything, is whoever is screaming louder, whoever is more ingenious in finding a way to get their the attention of the consulate are going to leapfrog over other people. And that is unfortunately how this rush and race to the visas is going to happen. It's going to be very unfortunate for many people, and it's going to be very frustrating. But I think at the end, it's going to be people who have lawyers are going to have a better chance. People who are at smaller consulate in Europe are going to have better chance. People who are not in an oversubscribed consulate are going to have better chance. That's kind of the reality.
Good. المحامية نيكوليت ترى أن في لأن that's because it's a class action, right? لأنها كلاس أكشن جوميز. ففي 2020 للأسف ما فيش أي طريقة نعرف مين اللي هياخد التأشيرات، إزاي هياخد التأشيرات. واضح أن أصحاب الصوت الأعلى هم اللي هيبقوا ياخدوا التأشيرات. هؤلاء من لهم محامون في قضايا زي فان جونج وكينيدي وآكر. واضح أن هم المحامين بتوعهم هيجروا على مصلحتهم، وذلك منفعة لكل من له محامي. هكذا أمريكا وهكذا تعمل أمريكا وتشتغل أمريكا وتدار أمريكا. من له محامي، من له مشكلة يلجأ لمحامي ليأتي بحقه. هي بتقول إن للأسف ما فيش أي مايكرو مانجينج ل 2020 أو 2021. So that take us directly to good luck plaintiffs, whatever the number gonna be, either 6,914 more or less, or even 10,000 or more. Is there any chance for those who are not plaintiffs to benefit from good luck?
Well, I'm going to say something that is not a popular opinion, and I know a lot of the other attorneys are going to be unhappy with me or probably disagree with me. But let me tell you how I see things working. And that's based on my experience over 20 years dealing with the Department of State. That is, the Department of State does what they want to do. And they are normally not very involved, and consulate operate on their own lists. And, they've been doing that for a very long time. And a lot of time people don't understand that. And so my view is that if we win at the good luck or the Gomez cases, it's easy for them because they have a certain amount of visa reserve. But in the good luck cases, I think the government is not going to be able to figure out who's a plaintiff, who's not a plaintiff. To begin with, there's ton of misspelling in the complaints.
But that take us back to whoever have lawyers, they will represent them and get that.
Correct.
Since it's not a class action, so others cannot benefit.
Well, here's the thing I don't agree with, is that the government is going to tell the consulate, you guys schedule, tell us how many people, and they go on their list. So I'm almost 100% sure that there will be people who are not on the good luck list that will get scheduled simply because the government can't figure out who's a plaintiff and who's not a plaintiff. I actually think that if there is a win at the appeal, and based on Shahi, I would not be surprised if the government comes up and says, okay, the judges tell us to preserve 6,000 visas. We will process as many visas as we can, and we'll fill up the remaining of the visas left, let's say, over the next few years, because it's easier for them to just go in a random way than figuring out, okay, so Joe is a member of the club, but is that really Joe? I mean, that number seems to be not right. It's going to be so impossibly for the bureaucracy to figure it out that I think the government will be better served to go their own way and maybe give more visas and say, we're not going to just give it to the plaintiff, we're going to issue, let's say, 12,000 visas, but it's going to be to other people.
Just like talking about the government.
Correct. The government.
I have to fix my government picture because she's giving me looks, you know. Now it's okay. That's my government. Anyway, let me translate what you just said to people. أنا سألت المحامية نيكوليت هل ترى أن في لأن عارفين رأيها أنها بعض غير المنضمين للقضايا قد يكسبوا من قضية good luck. قالت المحامية أنها بتخالف المحامين وتظن أن هيرجع الأمر إلى القنصليات، والقنصليات هي من ستستدعي الناس بأمر من الخارجية، والقنصليات ستعمل لأن القنصليات لا تعلم من المدعين ومن غير المدعين. رجعت ذكرتها بكلامها أن فقط من لهم محامين هم الذين يجروا لأجلهم ويحاولوا الاستفادة لأجلهم بقدر الإمكان، خاصة أن القضية ليست كلاس أكشن. قالت أن كل ما يهم الحكومة أنها تخلص من حكم القاضي وتنفذ ما عليها والمطلوب منها. وده رأي المحامية نيكوليت، مش لازم تملي تكون موافقة رأيي الشخصي أو رأي باقي المحامين. لكل ضيف من ضيوفي هنا بيكون له رأيه. I'm just trying to tell them that not always the host have to agree, or the our guest you Brett Simon, whoever comes here. It's a great honor for us to listen to your opinion. It's really appreciated. And you don't have to agree with what we're saying. Even lawyers does not agree totally together with each other. So we here respect the opinion and the freedom of speech, and opinion is a great benefit of living in the United States, and that's something I'm trying to teach them. Thank you very much for all that. Do you have? Oh, did we pass 1 hour already?
Oh no, I'm happy to continue. So if you have more questions,
Okay.
if you're okay,
Well,
I'll be happy to go more.
We got many.
Okay.
He said, if the Yusuf Lameshi, that's an Algerian name, and I think Libya too.
Okay.
في حال فزنا الاستئناف لا يمكن تستسلم الحكومة مباشرة وبسهولة بل ستلجأ إلى الطعن. He said, do you think even if we win without descending, the government gonna go to the Supreme Court?
Well, again, it's a speculation, but I believe that the government is likely to take an appeal if they lose, especially if they lose on the 1182F. I think because that upsets their practice, what they've done for 30 plus years. So I think they are, in my view, they're likely to try to go to the Supreme Court.
هذا هو ما يميز رأي نيكوليت، أن هي شايفة أن لو خسروا بصدد 1182F فده يكون إحراج ليهم جدا، ولإحراج مهني لهم، ولذلك ترى أنهم أكيد لو خسروا 1182 سيدخلوا إلى محكمة الاستئناف. وده رأي المحامية نيكوليت. عارفة إن في ناس مش هتوافق على الرأي، لكن هي شايفة إن الرأي بتاعها صحيح. I'm trying to get one of them.
And if I can continue on that, I believe that if they appeal, the chances are very good that the Supreme Court will take the appeal. And something that I've believed for a long time is that if we end up in the Supreme Court, I think our chances are very little.
Good. I think you know Hussein, Florida.
Probably
you heard
I
the
do.
name. Okay. So Hussein, Florida, I love to. He's with us here. And
hi, Hussein.
He said, "Is there any way that, or any sign that the INA or FAM can be used to reuse visas? Is there any sign of that? Do you think they will use INA or FAM to reuse visas? And if that the case, that can be also used in 2022, the recent litigation."
Well, the INA, the statute, doesn't talk about the possibility to carry over visas. So the INA is no help to preserve or claw back old visas, etc. I think neither is the FNM, which is internal policy. They don't have the force of law. I think the way to possibly claim back visas is by going on the first using Shahi, that the government has done something to forfeit the right to stop processing at the end of the year. I think Shahi opened that door that we should explore. Or possibly when we can find that there's discriminatory activities by the government, then use that and try to seek a benefit for people because they were disadvantaged. And so when the government specifically disadvantages one group, generally there's jurisdiction to ask a court to intervene and make it right. The biggest hurdle is that people were outside of the United States. So there's a lot of precedent that seems to be restricting the right of foreign nationals outside of the United States to assert discrimination. But that's part of the INA, so at least we have some basis. So I'm sure there will be smart lawyers who are going to try to figure it out. and I think we should.
سألتها إذا كانت تعرف حسين فلوريدا، فقالت أيوة أكيد تعرف حسين فلوريدا، ولو إنها مش متذكرة. سلمت على حسين، وأنا كمان بسلم على حسين. بتقول سؤال حسين بيقول هل هناك دليل على استخدام INA أو FAM في كحاجة وطنية necessity، يعني لاسترجاع التأشيرات الغير مستخدمة في 2020 و2021، وقلت لها كمان ده ممكن لو في الحالة نعم، إذا ممكن ينفع 2022 كمان. استشهدت بقضايا أخرى ومنها قضية شهي، وقالت نعم إذا نجح الأبيل فترى أن كل ذلك سيكون ممكن إن شاء الله. So one of them is asking, one of the great audience, not like one of them like a random thing. No, we appreciate all our audience. هل يمكن المحكمة أن تستدلي بقضية المكرمي ضد بيبيو لو فازوا لو فماز؟ Now typos are making it critical. I will answer that later myself. And عندما وصل الناس العلاقة في الإجراءات الإدارية that's to me winner from Iraq not interviewed and no complaint. Any hope for back old visas? Do you want to answer, please?
Can you? I can't see it very well.
Okay. He said, "Hi, I am a DV 2021 winner from Iraq, not interviewed, and no complaint." He means he's not
no lawsuit.
No lawsuit. Any hope for get back old visas? So, is there any hope for non-plaintiffs as is now? Is there any hope as is? I mean, as 6,000.
I mean, again, if Judge Mehta sticks with only giving relief to the plaintiffs, then most likely people are not going to get any benefit. But as I said, people may get visas or interviewed simply because the government is incompetent, is not going to be able to keep track who's a plaintiff, who is not. But there will not going to be a benefit specifically to non-plaintiff. That's not going to happen.
تقول السيدة نيكوليت لن يكون هناك استفادة لمن هم ليسوا من المدعين، وتعود وتقول قد يستفيد البعض إذا استمر الوضع على ما هو عليه. قد يستفيد البعض من قرار good luck، ولكن بصفة عامة لن يستطيع من هم غير مدعين الحصول على تأشيرات. We thank you very, very much. We took a lot of your time, and sorry for the miscommunicate.
I apologize.
Yeah, you don't apologize. It's a great honor, and we really appreciate all what you're doing. And I just tell you, like the others, please come again.
Well, if you want me to, you just send me an email and I'll try. Sure. Now I know the platform, so I know how to join. So I'll be able to join you without a problem.
Yeah, and if you there is recommendations, like put it on your computer better than your so you can read with us, and you can pick and choose questions, and you can share whatever you want, like put it down there and I'll put it on the screen. It's a great platform, which we're not going to say the name because they're taking enough money from us. So thank you very much. Is there anything you want to tell your audience before?
Well, I just want to say we appreciate all the DV 2020, 2021, 2022 that have worked with all of us, attorneys in the United States, and we are going to continue to fight. That's what I can say is that both the attorney that you guys know, Charles and Raphael and myself, but there will be other attorneys who are going to figure out a way to try to do justice. And
I have questions from my side. So I'm sorry, I was just joking. So do you see that was a necessity? I know it seems like a stupid question, but there is people, which Charles Cook called them the glue sniffers. There is people that says, "Oh, don't you ever sue the American government." There is people who said to people here with us, and they're watching. They said, if you sue the American government, you making enemies with them for the rest of the years until whoever and whenever. There is people who tell people that you did a great mistake suing the American government and you will never win, and that's the wrong thing to do, is to sue the American government. There is people who said there was no need for lawsuits in 2020. There's no need for lawsuits in 2021, and there's no need for any lawsuits against the government. I'm waiting for your answer.
Well, as I always tell clients, litigation is not for everybody. So there are people who are comfortable. They want to make sure that their voices are heard. And for them, litigation is incredibly important. I have to disagree that there was no need for a lawsuit in 2020 and 2021, because if there were no lawsuits, nothing would have happened. Now, the government could have done by themselves what they want to do, who knows? But reality is the government does not pick fights with individual plaintiffs. So people who are scared or thought that, the government is going to go after us because we sued, that's not happening. So I can assure people that nobody at the Department of State or at the administration of the White House holds grudges because people have lost lawsuits. Neither are the consulates. I think the only thing that the consulates are upset of are the people who keep sending him emails and emails and emails. Those are the people who end up in trouble.
Okay. And let me add to that. And also they say, okay, they will have no problem with you. You want me to give you an interview? Okay, I'm going to give you an interview. And once you go to the interview, you say, this is wrong. No. And they will refuse right, left, and center, which is not happening this year. We see a general basic refusal percentage less than the normal year. It's the first year we stay on 10% and lower. And just to let you know, the percentage until last month in Algeria, refusal was under 4%.
That's correct.
Yeah. السيدة نيكوليت سألتها سؤال عن بعض شمامين الكلة على رأي تشارلز كوك اللي قالوا للناس أن لا داعي للقضايا، وقالوا أن القضايا بتعمل عداوة بينك وبين الحكومة. قالت القضايا مش لكل الناس، للناس اللي بتفهم بس والناس اللي مستعدة بس. الحكومة الأمريكية مستحيل تتعاقبك أو تعمل عداوة معاك أو تبقى تعاديك. الشيء الوحيد اللي ضايق القنصلية فقط إنك تبعت لهم مليون إيميل، غير كده فالعدالة ناجزة في أمريكا. And here's حسين. وشايفة ان شمامين الكلة فعلا الناس بتشم كلة وقالت كده. حسين is asking you, Hussein Florida, he's asking, why do you think the judge asked, Hussein lives in Florida, by the way, in Naples. Why do you think, he's Moroccan, DV 2018. Why do you think judge asked the government if selectee can apply again for DV? Oh, this one here. I thought the judge asked the government if they can take the selectees who did not have interviews and add them to the selectees of 2024, for example. Is that what was asked, or if they can apply again?
You see, when I was in the argument, that's what I thought the judge was asking is, can you basically, people who didn't get the interview, can you just put them into the next year?
Which means the judge did not know what is diversity visa completely.
Correct. And the judge didn't know that there is no rollover into the next year. But then you can hear the argument and the question being, which judges a lot of time will say, well, you are free to apply again for the next year DV's, lottery, which is kind of a ridiculous thing, because people, I have clients who have applied for a DV lottery for 18 years before finally winning. So, participating in a lottery, the chances to success are very small. So to the extent that was the question asked, then it is again an ignorant question, because it provides very little relief to people.
هذا السؤال من حسين فلوريدا. حسين بيقول now people start to pick on each other because glue sniffers, like Chuck said, that they'll be pissed now. حسين بيسأل السيدة نيكوليت، بيقول لها لماذا تظني القاضي في نظرك لماذا القاضي سألت مندوبة الحكومة إذا كان ممكن للسلكتيز أن يقدموا للهجرة مرة أخرى؟ وقلت لها أنا متصور أن القاضية كانت تقصد تضم دول الناجحين هنا أو الفائزين هنا، الفائزين في أماكن أخرى أو سنوات أخرى. قالت فعلا هذا كان قصد القاضية، وإحنا الاثنين اتفقنا أن ده نتيجة عن جهل القاضية لقانون لموضوع الهجرة العشوائية بصفة عامة، بل وكان محاولة للقاضية بتقول طب ما تروحوا تقدموا تاني وخلاص. وهي شايفة أن ده سؤال ينم عن جهل. هي سألت كده بالنص لأخونا حسين. احنا متشكرين جدا يا حسين ان انت بتشاركنا وموجود معانا. At the end of this, thank you very much. We took more than 1 hour, and please come again.
I will be very happy to join you guys if you have questions or there's a topic that you want to talk to.
I think next time after the I was going to say the school year, after the physical year, I think after the fiscal year, it's going to be either Raphael or Curtis Morrison, because they're so busy with 2020 now. And then we're going to be waiting for the appeal. And please come again when the appeal comes out with the result. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you inviting me. And it was a pleasure being here and talking to your viewers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening for you guys, and maybe I'll see you soon.
I know Dupra Udra. I don't know what's for good night.
I'm sorry?
I know Dupra Udra for good morning. I don't know what's for good night.
Dobra večer.
Dobra večer.
Okay.
السيدة نيكوليت ولقائها مع حضراتكم. أرجو أن نكون أجبنا كل يا أنا شايفك كل طول خليني ساكت يا عم. طاحون مين؟ قضية طاحون مع نيكوليت. أنا ما أعرفش لو في قضية اسمها طاحون يا إيهاب يا عاطف. لو في قضية اكتب لي وهنجيب لك نيكوليت تاني. شمامين الكل هيموتوا من السكتة القلبية. حضراتكم كده احنا مش عايزين بس نشتت الناس. انا طبعا عارف كويس جدا الناس فاهمة كل شيء. انا اسف يا هاني ما لحقتش. انت سؤالك يا عمدة كان سؤال ممكن اتفضل لو اقدر اجاوب عليه، لكن احنا بقى لنا ساعتين و45 دقيقة يا جماعة. اسمحوا لنا نطلع مرة تانية ونجاوب على الأسئلة بتاعت حضراتكم. في سؤال هنا ما لحقناش نجاوب عنه لأن هي ما كانش هيبقى عندها إجابة للسؤال. أنا متأسف يا كروك بالانس. أنا نفسي لقيت مشكلة في إن أنا أقرأ السؤال بالكامل. أنا متشكر لحضراتكم جدا، وعلى وعد بلقاءات أخرى إن شاء الله. متشكرين لكم جدا، شرفتونا ونورتونا، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كان معكم شريف أبو العافية.